Welcome to Leaders Give Back, a new Engage FI podcast that amplifies the voices of seasoned financial services executives and shares experience-driven insights and advice to the next generation of industry leadership. Today, I'm joined by Kathy Pace, an Engage FI executive affiliate and the former CEO of a legacy federal credit union in North Carolina. Kathy is also a leadership educator at Wake Forest University, so she really has her finger on the pulse of rising leaders today. Kathy has been in the CEO chair. She has led teams. She has guided organizations, and she spends her time now investing in the next generation of leaders, those stepping into big roles and trying to make sense of what leadership really looks like in today's world. In our conversation today, we're going to talk about the attributes that lead to sustainable leadership, what concerns Kathy is hearing from young leaders, and what timeless lessons still matter most today. Our goal with the Leaders Give Back podcast is to help you navigate the rapid acceleration of industry change, from strong new competitors to the blistering pace of technology innovation, all of which present challenges to the traditional operating models that we have today. With that, whether you are a rising leader, mentoring young leaders, or simply looking for tools to manage your own leadership teams, this conversation is for you. It's full of advice you can put into action immediately. The Leaders Give Back podcast is where experience meets the future. So let's dive right in. It is so nice to have you back on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Virginia. It is my pleasure to be here. It's very exciting to be a part of the executive affiliate program here at Engage FI. So excited about it.
Fantastic, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your background, Kathy. Who are you? What have you done? And importantly, how do you have your finger on the pulse of aspiring young leaders today?
Well, first of all, I will tell you, I certainly enjoyed over 4 decades of employment with a legacy federal credit union. Had so many wonderful experiences there. And today that gives me the opportunity to give many of those gifts back. So I would tell you that over the past couple of years, even before I retired, I've had the opportunity to work with many undergraduates, graduate students, as well as a lot of young, thriving professionals at some smaller companies. And this is a gift. And if you ever have this opportunity, I would say take advantage of it. These individuals, whether, as I mentioned, grad students or young professionals already working, they are amazingly bright. They're aspiring young people. And honestly, they are seeking as much guidance and insight as possible. And as seasoned leaders, we have so much to give back to them, and we should be. We should be giving back to these individuals.
I love to hear that, Kathy, as somebody who's been in the industry for about 30 years now as well, but also as a mother of young people, to hear this personal interest that you have in really shaping this generation of leaders. I'm curious, you interact with a lot of these young people today, shaping them, guiding them, giving them good sage advice. What are they telling you? What are you hearing from young leaders today? What are they anxious about or curious about?
It's a lot. As one might imagine, they do have quite a bit on their minds. And many of the questions that I hear are pretty typical to what we typically hear in our environment, such as, what advice would I give myself today if I were 21 or 22 years old, knowing what I already know? The other one is like, what is the most challenging leadership decision and or failure that you've experienced, and how did that shape my leadership going forward? But as I mentioned, these are normal. Most all of you out there listening have probably heard these same questions. But what I've been most impressed with, Virginia, is with the more thoughtful questions that are taking a much deeper dive. And what I mean by that is this is what they're asking today. It's like, how do you keep teams motivated while also making really tough strategic decisions in a world full of complexities, disruptions, and uncertainty? That's a question. Often I get that question. Another one is what works best for keeping people engaged when you're leading a group with really different backgrounds and perspectives? And how do you prioritize competing initiatives? All three of those questions in almost every guest lecture that I have the opportunity to have, those come up. So what this says something to me. For example, all these questions to me are showing that people or individuals are aware of the realities that we're facing today. It represents to me maturity. It's very clear, of course, when I have the one-on-ones, that they really understand that things are complex and decisions that we have to make sometimes are very, very risky, and that we also have to have trade-offs. So I am also getting from each of these groups and individuals that they really do value results and people, and they want to stay true to their personal values as much as possible. But they also want to be contributors. I have found that these individuals are seeking guidance, and at the same time they still want framework to help them kind of stay in their lane and not cause too much of their own disruption. But also, as we love to hear from young professionals, they're very curious, genuinely. They're very curious. And I really believe that if we can give them more time and just sit and listen and understand what's on their mind, they're going to be some of the best professional leaders out there. And we need as many of those today as possible.
And I think it's so important that we're having this conversation, Kathy. And I know that young leaders are really happy that you're saying this because, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be understood. And this is a large generation. So they're coming into the financial services industry. From what I'm hearing from you, they are ready to hit the ground running. They're coming in with a level of maturity and awareness that we might not have seen in prior generations. I'll speak for myself. I wouldn't have been asking those questions. So it's really good to hear you say this. And, how do we integrate them as efficiently as possible and allow them to really contribute in a meaningful way right out of the gate?
Right, absolutely.
I love that. I love that. And it is a different world. So I've been thinking as I was preparing for our conversation today, we do live in this world, Kathy, especially young people in this world of being bold, of self-promotion, thanks, of course, in large part to social media. And it feels like humility might often be viewed as countercultural. How do you help young professionals view humility not necessarily as a weakness, but really as something that is a huge strategic strength for a leader?
So, out of the many questions you might ask me today, I'm going to say I think this is one of the most important ones. It is definitely a balance to help our young leaders understand that humility is a form of learning. And in my experience, I would tell you that I saw the strongest leaders as those who were so confident enough to lay their weaknesses out on the middle of the table. They didn't care what their peers thought about that question. And as we all know, most of the time, the same question that someone else is more confident to ask is the ones that others are thinking. This shows to me when they show this humility that they're curious, they're eager to gain more knowledge and to understand their role as well as to seek clarity. How many times have we heard employees come to us or staff members to say, I need to understand my priorities. I need to understand my role in this. I need some help. Those are the individuals that we need to stop and spend more time with. I also think and believe that we need to help them understand that self promotion and being overly bold is just another way to bring temporary attention to oneself. And it gets old to your peers. And they figure out pretty quickly where this is coming from. And it's a lot of ego sometimes. And while humility demonstrates, I think, the true authenticity of a person, at times I think we as seasoned leaders, we have to be teachable. And we, in other words, we have to be the student as well. And that continues on our journeys as seasoned leaders to make sure that our employees and other people can see the humility that put our weaknesses out on the table. We can do that. And I think that that's one of the things I think I learned probably along the way, as a began being more of a senior leader, how important that was.
And modeling that humility, it really is contagious. The tone gets set from the top, and so the
Absolutely.
encouragement, the
Yes.
culture has to send a signal to young people, hey, there are no bad questions. Ask questions.
Absolutely.
Right. So speaking of questions, one of the things, Kathy, that I hear quite a bit, I've also observed, frankly, in my own children and young people who have worked on my teams, is this idea that the next generation needs some mentorship when it comes to interpersonal communication. They have grown up in a completely different world than we did. Thanks to social media, they're over connected, but not in a very personal way if we were to compare it to the way we grew up. And so in a work setting, that's showing up in in-person meetings, that is showing up. Are you seeing that as well? And what do you recommend to young leaders to strengthen how they communicate, how they connect?
Actually, I was with a peer last evening. This individual is a partner in a well-known accounting firm across the U.S. And we had this same conversation because she has several very, very inexperienced leaders in her area of responsibility. And we shared what we're seeing. And the fact is that they want mentorship, but sometimes they're just afraid to ask for it because it's showing a sign of weakness. So that's when we have to recognize the signs that we're seeing in these young leaders and reach out to them. We have to do this because there's so many other things taking over um, that are more skilled and more projects, and we are forgetting the soft side of the business. And I want to share this. 18 months ago, prior to my retirement, I engaged with a coach, with a transition coach for guidance to prepare me for my journey. I needed mentorship, even after an individual who's had 30 years of very high level leadership. I did that for myself and I also did it for my family. So when I see these young individuals that are truly seeking membership, they want that one on one attention. And again, they're afraid to ask because many times when I get the opportunity to get in front of them, I ask them, why did you select to have this conversation today? And they said, well, there's a lot on my mind that I just didn't want to go to my manager about, or I didn't want to go to my team captain about, particularly if they're on a sports team in a university. And they just want to ask those hard questions like, how do I get my manager to advocate for me? How can I show more value? What can I do? So, so that's so important for us to do this. Again, my peer and I talked about it's the way they communicate. They are still hiding behind so many texts and emails, and so clear messages, they just do not get across. So another thing that I've been able to share with these students, particularly who are hiding quite a bit behind their email, as well as some young leaders in the workforce, is the way in which we're delivering communication. The dissemination of communication could not be more important. So I coach on 3 areas that I think can make or break a conversation. And those 3 areas are the tonality, the word choice, and the body language, and how important all 3 of those areas are, particularly when you're giving critical feedback. It can soften or it can absolutely cause the conversation to go in a very unsuccessful way and a demotivating way for that individual. So we need to make sure that mentorship becomes a part of everything that we're doing in our processes as seasoned leaders. And we need to do this in the early stages of our leaders that we are promoting. It's got to be a part of their overall performance.
And Kathy, what I'm hearing you also say is that there are skills that can be taught, but then there are also mindset shifts that need to happen. And those can be, they can be connected, but they can also be very different. That's a different way of guiding a young person. And when I think of mindset shifts, this is, thinking, maybe broadly more team as opposed to I. And I'm sure there are many examples, and I want to hear from you. What mindset shifts were most important for you when you transitioned from being a strong individual team member to becoming a well-respected leader? Because I'm not sure everybody knows you were with the Legacy for a very long time, and you started from at the bottom and rose all the way to the top.
You're exactly right. And all those things were on my mind. Today I'm a peer, tomorrow I'm the senior leader, and the next day I'm the CEO. What happened for me is I became more aware of the importance of my personal and core values. And I had to really think about what they were. And for me, it's honesty, it's integrity, and it's doing the right thing for the right reason. And Virginia, I just didn't declare those values on paper. I did my very best, as I continue to do today, to live them out, and I want to make sure that they're visible. So it's just very important to remember as leaders that we are under the watchful eyes of many, many people, whether it's in the organization, whether it's as a student, or whether you're out in the community. You are a brand of the organization that you represent. So my actions, I want my actions to tell the true story of who I am, because I believe that's also integrity. As I've said before, integrity is the foundation to trust. And if you can't trust me, it's doubtful that you're going to follow me, and that you will open up to me, and that you would even want advice or feedback from me. So I think we have to strive as leaders to know what our core values are and to lead with our core values and strive for excellence, not perfection. Just because we are the CEO, we are not perfect. And as we all know, leadership comes with a great deal of responsibility with very, very high standards. And while accomplishments and results absolutely have to happen, we have regulators looking for those results. We have board members looking for those results. As mid managers, you have higher managers looking at your results. But I do believe that the criteria for excellent leadership has much more to do with character than it does our accomplishments. Because if you have strong character and you have that integrity and you have the trust of others that are following you, the results will come.
But what you're saying, Kathy, is really landing with me. I feel, your words almost viscerally, because it feels to me like what you're saying is if you're focused on connecting with your core values, living those and leading by them, you are obviously going to be a better leader, but you're also going to be more true to yourself and therefore probably have a lot more longevity in a role or in an organization.
Absolutely. Another piece that I would add to that is once you understand and you're living and actually those values are visible to everyone, like I said, that I hope mine are. I'm also doing things that I enjoy that are natural for me versus trying to be something that I believe this group over here wants me to be, or the perspective of what they think I should be. And then my natural gifts tendencies come out. And at that point in time, it just fills up my energy.
Mhm.
And energy is contagious. I want to be around an organization that is full of energy and creates happiness and productivity equals successful opportunities for not just the organization, but that we're doing good for our members in credit unions and other financial institutions that we serve.
And knowing what our core values are, we can also then assemble a leadership team that has maybe different core values or bring other strengths to the equation. So there really is that true collaboration within the organization.
Absolutely, and you brought up something that did remind me, and I may have touched on it a bit when we first started about It's okay if we have 10 people in a room and there's 4 different cultures there and there's different values. We all need each other, and we need to take time to understand how other people feel and why they do the things that they do. Sometimes we judge people by what we think they should be doing, and they should be doing it just like us. We don't need 10 personality types that are just alike. We will never be successful with that. And I think we've all been down that path as well.
Yes, yes. And but often leaders will pursue just that, Kathy. Well, I've seen this happen a lot where leaders will say, okay, I'm aligned with these 10 people, let's get together and lead this organization, where I'm hearing you say, no, here are my strengths, these are my values, let's get some people that have alternative points of views, different perspectives, different strengths.
Right. Absolutely.
I love that. Speaking of strengths, technology, I cannot not ask about technology because everybody's talking about it. And leadership conversations, every single one that I have nowadays seems to be dominated by technology. There's artificial intelligence, there's automation of so many different varieties, digital transformation. We've been talking about that for the last 20 years. What are we not talking about enough because we're so intensely focused on technology?
So again, I love this question. First of all, many of the questions and answers and things that we talked about today, our subject matter, has revolved around the softer attributes of leadership, and culture, and the diversity of all of our expertise. So I would say, but at the same time, there always seems to be another new technology opportunity that's causing us to rush to implement, to understand, to execute, and get it to the market. However, soft leadership qualities, attributes are getting lost. And I believe in some cases they're just buried because we're putting them on a shelf. We'll get to it. Oh, I'll cover that in the 90-day coaching session. But I think as leaders, it is time and past time where we have to reset and refocus, pause and reflect, and absolutely be more intentional in connecting with people. I know we've all heard this because there's so many leaders that talk about it, that when you get that knock on your door, if your door stays open a lot, and it's that employee there that said, got a minute? I got a question. And you're thinking, oh gosh, another disruption. I got to get this board report done. But we all hear those are the times that we need to pause, because there is something critical on the mind of that employee. And it could be the very opportunity that the organization needs. And not only that, you're respecting that employee who was probably trying to create enough courage to come and knock on your door and say, hey, I got this idea, or this issue's on my mind. We gotta use those as opportunities more. And I know I'm guilty. I did it, and I had those thoughts about, okay, I'm going to give them a few minutes. I wished I had done that more. So there are things that we've done as seasoned leaders that we can pass on to say, don't do it the way I did it, because I could have learned a lot more. So I think that taking the time to intentionally connect with people, the tech world often or not, and more often than not, is the one area that's bringing groups of people together, departments together, and they all have a lot of different areas of expertise. Again, going back to what I said earlier, backgrounds and culture. And we have to have the ability to be sensitive to those feelings, and to the ability to explain and to communicate in ways that allows the other people to understand that they have a voice that is also critical. Those leaders who do understand the value of soft skills, such as they can demonstrate listening, their empathy's there, I think they're some of our best and most successful leaders. And those are the people that we need around us. And tech people tend to stay very techy, and we might have to work with that group of people more. We can't let this continue, I believe, in the manner that it has, of putting the opportunity to mentor, to listen, to understand, to acknowledge, the perspectives of different backgrounds and cultures, we got to take that off the shelf. And I know we're trying to do it, but I think the priority needs to shift higher to the top.
This is, I think, a conversation that we need to have in even greater depth in at some point in the future, Kathy, because what I'm hearing you say here is, yes, technology has this huge focus in our industry. And as a result of that, we have technology leaders that are, of course, deeply entrenched across the organization. And there's an opportunity to convert them from technology leaders into business leaders, and soft skills are one of the most important ingredients for this. Did I get you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree, but you said it beautifully. Yes, thank you.
Yes, no, I think that is such an important point. I agree 100% with you that this is something that has been overlooked and is a strategy necessity. Because what we're seeing, I think, in the fintech banks, a lot of them are seeing some tremendous success because they are doing that. They have technology leaders that do have those soft skills, that have been able to assemble teams and drive them from idea to strategy and execution. And that's something that our traditional industry, if you will, still has work to do on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Timeless disciplines, I love it. I mean, every time it comes back to the timeless disciplines of leadership. If you could resurrect one old school leadership practice, Kathy, that you think today's rising leaders desperately need, what would it be? And why is it still important?
Okay. So this may be a cliche, but it is definitely an old expression. And so this is what I would say to you. Keep your eyes on the prize. Your people. Your people. Make sure that you understand how important it is to balance the head with all the numbers and the heart with all the empathy with your staff, your spouse, your friend, whoever in life. I think keeping your eyes on the prize, that when you bring the numbers together with the care of your people, you have an incredibly successful duo.
I just think that's the best way to end this podcast, Kathy. This has been magnificent, and I have learned so much.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure, and I'm still learning every single day from young leaders out there, and it is really a gift. And I thank you for allowing me to give it back.
Well, your passion shines through, and I took some notes because this is always a wonderful learning opportunity for me as well. I heard you say you dropped some wisdom bombs, Kathy. You said humility is a form of learning. I loved that. You talked about the softer attributes of leadership. You talked about the importance of fostering a culture of having that open door and connecting with people. Don't overlook those human conversations, and finally, keep your eyes on the prize, your people.
You covered it.
That's amazing. I love it. And that's a wrap on today's episode. This has been such a thoughtful, truly thoughtful conversation, and one that is clearly rooted in deep experience. It reminds us that leadership is not always about personal achievement, but about service. It's about stewardship, and it's about people. Kathy, you've given me a lot to think about and action in my own professional life. And if today's conversation resonated with you, dear listeners, please share it with someone you're mentoring or with someone who has mentored you. And again, a huge thank you to Kathy for sharing such candid lessons from the leadership seat. You'll be hearing a lot more from Kathy as she shares her leadership lessons across a whole range of topics right here on the Leaders Give Back podcast. If you would like to hear more stories like this one, follow Leaders Give Back wherever you listen to your podcasts, and look for our next episode and other trusted industry advice by following Engage FI on LinkedIn. Until next time, be well and have a great rest of your day.